everyone, to a very special 10 Reasons Why Show podcast. Joining me, as always, is Robert Pattinson's stunt double, Sam Labrati. And of course, you all know her as the girl who will turn you into a human poster if you cross her. It's Summer Batuk.
Right there.
But joining us today is a man we like to call the People's Champion, because he's the creator and head raspberry of the world-famous Razzie Awards. Woo! Please welcome John Wilson to the show.
Yeah!
Welcome myself. Thank you.
You can welcome yourself.
All right. This is exciting.
I'm delighted I'm here.
We're delighted that you are here, because
we are so happy to have you. Absolutely. Yeah.
We are huge fans of the Razzies. We always look for the nominations. We always look for the who gets awarded for what. So we're happy that you're here. So to start it off, I guess we should say, for those who have actually been living under a rock for the last 33, you said this is your
33 years, yes.
Wow. Tell us what the Razzie Awards are.
Well, they are basically the opposite of the other 357 award shows. It's the other end of the scale. It's worst achievements, worst actor, worst picture, worst actress. And just to give you some historic perspective, if you were old enough to remember the Oscars, they had to postpone because John Hinckley shot Ronald Reagan. That was the night we did the very first Razzies.
Wow. That's a memorable thing.
Yeah.
So did that coincide, or was that?
It was just a complete coincidence, but all of the programs that we have in our archives for the first Razzies are wrong because we had to change.
Right.
We had to change all the names because it was Tuesday, and some of our friends had lives. So
yeah, those aren't friends of mine. I don't know what that's like.
Wow.
Did you have a question you want to ask?
My question would be, why and how did you come up with this idea?
Well, it comes out of several different things. I actually, as a kid, I loved the Academy Awards. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the few nights of the year, I grew up in Chicago, where we were allowed to stay up late. Mm-hmm. And I very clearly remember when Patty Duke won an Oscar thinking, she's not much older than I am. Wow, kids can win Oscars. And in my capacity at the time I created it, I was a copywriter for a trailer house. Mm-hmm. And they sponsored a film festival. And in 1980, I actually saw more than 250 films in 1 year.
Wow.
And when you see that many, you start to realize, you know what? The Oscars, they've got like 10, but the other end has got 60. And the specific evening that set me off, I paid 99 cents to see a double feature of The Village People in Can't Stop the Music and Olivia Newton-John in Xanadu.
Oh, yes.
And anyone who knows bad movies knows what I'm talking about.
I do know exactly.
Two dreadful disco musicals.
Pretty bad.
And when the usher wouldn't give me my 99 cents back, I'm driving.
And that was the moment you're like, yeah.
And I'm driving home, and I remember it was August, and it was hot, and there was sirens going, and I'm thinking, well, okay, you've got those two, you've got The Formula, you've got Raise the Titanic, Saturn III, and I could name...
all these crap movies.
Yeah, 1980 was a terrible year, partly because there was a company that started that year called AFD. That did The Jazz Singer with Neil Diamond, and they did Saturn III, and they did, everything they did was crap. But it was the first 3 years. It was an adjunct to an Oscar night potluck party. Mm-hmm. Here in LA, when you watch the Oscars, they actually are over before 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. Usually. Yeah. And so the Oscars ended at 9, and we had a cardboard podium and a broomstick with a ball on it pretending to be a mic, and I put a banner up in my alcove, and we just hauled people up from the buffet table of the potluck, and just, you're presenting screenplay, you're presenting this, you're doing that.
Nice.
And the people who were there that first Razzies, every single one of them came up to me. A lot of them were co-workers. Yeah. Came up to me afterwards and said, "This is such a great idea. You really should do something with this." And I thought, that many people, maybe I should listen.
Yeah.
And then it did take us till the fourth year to realize you can't do it on the same night as the Oscars and get any media attention. Right. And someone said, the press from all over the world are in LA for the Oscars, and they're here on Saturday. And so when we did that, we moved it the day before. We got TV crews from like Yugoslavia showing up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
And you still do, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. I don't know that we have we have the Ukraine. I don't know if we have Yugoslavia this year.
Huge in the Ukraine.
Well, the last time we were at Razzies, I met journalists from all over the world. It was amazing.
And the basic idea is so simple. You know,
Yeah.
it's the Oscars turned on its head.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of foreign countries resent the fact that the American good movies stomp all over their product, that ours is considered the standard, but we also make a lot of crap.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So they're really
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure do.
anything to make it look like they suck a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. What did you think going into it? That, I mean, obviously you didn't think it was going to be huge, but it's turned into this huge international thing where people do come. Did you envision that, or what was your intent?
No, standing at the cardboard podium.
That was about. Gotcha.
I think I sent you guys a photo of that.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I was just riffing that first year, and it seemed like a funny idea. I didn't understand that not really. I didn't know that it would become world famous. In fact,
popular, right? Yeah.
one of our members just sent me a clipping from Singapore, and I'm like, cool.
Wow. Singapore. That's amazing. So how does, I don't know if you were going to ask this, Sam, but how do you get involved? I mean, who votes for these things? Who votes for the movies, or how can somebody get involved, or can they?
Well, we like to say we have the most democratic membership. It's got 3 branches. One of them is people in the business. I'm a publicist and copywriter. We have editors, composers, directors, screenwriters. Another branch is people who cover the business.
Okay.
Who don't pay their dues. And then we have the general movie-going public, which is about half of our voting membership.
Gotcha.
And the first-year fee to be a standard member is $40.
Okay.
And you get a shot at seats to the show. You get to vote. We send you a lovely tacky card that it won't get you into a bad movie. It'll get you out of one.
Oh, that was great.
So where would they go? If they go to
We
a
have
website?
a website, www.razzies.com, and anywhere you touch your cursor on the main page, it'll take you to join.
Nice.
Very nice. Yeah.
I actually want to join.
Kinky. Yeah, I like it.
So $40 gets you the standard membership. So
And then we have higher levels. You can go all the way up to lifetime, where you get 55 gift memberships, and as long as we're alive, you're
How
considered
many
a member.
levels do you have?
I think 5 or 6.
wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I should also point out, our current eligible voting membership is about 7 times that of the Golden Globes.
Wow.
We have about 650 or so voting members. It's in flux right now. And a lot of people don't know the Golden Globes is 93 people.
I did not know
I didn't know
that.
that either.
Do the math. You can win a Golden Globe with 17 votes.
That's amazing.
They don't really mean
That's
anything.
kind of bizarre, actually.
I
That's
never
bizarre.
thought so.
Wow.
But it's a great way to make money.
The Globes or the Razzies? The Razzies are not, sadly.
Well, we're going to try to change that.
Yeah, exactly. We should try to change that.
quite
I think the
surprised,
Razzies are a lot more accurate and more important to the world than
Well, the Globes, I noticed, I'm an award show junkie because that's part of what I do. And I noticed in the 80s, if you hosted the Golden Globes, you won a Golden Globe.
Right.
I
Really?
think John Forsythe for Dynasty won Best Actor in a Drama Series because he was hosting.
No kidding.
Just because he was hosting? Seriously?
Well, I
That's
can't
bizarre.
prove that.
That's conspiracy theory, right?
Yes.
But probably true, though, I would
September 11th was an inside job.
I heard.
See, we said don't get into politics, and goes right into
say. Oh,
it.
that was funny.
Oh my gosh.
I have a question, real quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one of those cricket moments again.
I know, I was going to say that.
Oh, I get a lot of these cricket moments.
Sam's
You're
going.
referring to the British game or Barbie's little sister?
I'm talking to the bug. I'm talking about the bug. I heard a rumor that the Golden Globes were started by the Foreign Press Association because they were pissed off at being left out of the dealings and covering the Oscars. Is that true at all?
I have to say I've never heard that particular theory. They are the majority of the voters for the Golden Globes are supposed to be foreign journalists.
Right.
And I've always heard that most of them don't earn the bulk of their living from covering entertainment.
Oh.
And that they obviously are very persuadable. If they're the only other organization than us that gave an award to Pia Zadora, obviously they're open to influence.
Yeah.
What did they give her an award for?
She won, believe it or not, she beat out, I think it was Denzel Washington was one of the contenders. She won Best New Star. And it was the one year they were on a network before Dick Clark came into the picture.
Right.
They were on CBS, and there was such a stink about how did she win this? Because he flew. Her husband owned the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas, and he flew a bunch of people there. And she was the opening act for Frank Sinatra. They got to see him. I mean, it was like a big scandal. It's something they don't really like to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it.
But we like to talk.
Yeah, we like to do. Yeah, we like to.
That's why we want you on our show.
You touched on it a little bit. Why do you think people are so intrigued with the Razzies? Why do you what is it about the Razzies that we like? Other than I know it's the worst movies, but
we are sort of the pea shooter in the peanut gallery at the multiplex.
Yeah.
And anyone who sees more than 10 movies a year is going to see a bad movie. That's just the odds.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are the only ones out there who aren't just slapping ourselves on the back and air kissing and pretending, oh, everything's wonderful and everything. And no, Battleship came out last year. Excuse me.
Exactly.
But I feel like, finally somebody's saying something about bad movies.
Well, not finally. 33 years.
No. You know what I mean.
Her, it's, she's
But
from Turkey.
you know what I mean. Like,
Yes. Well, it is.
Because it's all about everything, as you said. Oh my God, perfect. Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not.
that is a big part of its appeal. Is the idea that we are not PC. We're not going to pretend. Occasionally the Academy has picked movies that historically, if you look way back, you kind of like The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yeah.
Really? Was better than High Noon? No, it wasn't. But we very rarely get arguments with what we pick, but we also, every year, there are dozens of movies that could contend, and nobody would argue with us. Well, except, of course, the people who made them. But there's so much to choose from with our kind of an award that I keep having to explain to people on the forum of our website, we can't razz everything. The show would be 5 weeks long.
But there's so much to.
What does that say to the state of the movies these days?
It says a lot, actually.
But here's this flip side of it. So you get all these movies, you nominate these movies, which means you had to have seen these movies.
Yes, that's the downside.
So you literally have to go see. I don't know how many movies you see a year, but I imagine
and unfortunately it weighs toward the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I very clearly remember when Adam Sandler showed up in the wig in Jack and Jill. I remember in my head thinking, if I wasn't who I am, I would so be out of here right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and because I do I'm doing an interview now, but to intelligently discuss this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of expected.
Yeah.
I do have to see an awful lot of garbage.
Hey, JB, John, regarding Adam Sandler, do you think there's any kind of Emperor's New Clothes kind of a thing going on where people don't want to tell him how bad his ideas and films are these days?
There is a clip in the behind-the-scenes material on the DVD of Jack and Jill where when the camera stops, Al Pacino turns to Sandler and says, "That was insultingly stupid. What are you?" And Sandler says, "My fans like stupid."
Oh, wow.
So I can't prove that Jack and Jill, being the first film ever to win all 10 Razzies, was amazing. A factor in That's My Boy doing half the business Jack and Jill did, which did 2/3 of the business that Just Go With It did. His career trajectory is definitely headed
straight down
into the toilet. He's on the same trajectory as a fellow worst actor contender, Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
Only Eddie Murphy's got like 19 strikes.
Right.
And Sandler's got 2 or 3. But yeah, I personally think if he were to win, he would be very smart to at least acknowledge it, whether he came or submitted something or asked to be given, whatever. I think he's in a place where, people now feel like he's not funny.
I think you're probably onto something.
Yeah, I feel like his movies are turning more like Dumber and Dumber.
Well, I think he's
Dumb and Dumberer.
Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
And I think the
it's
older,
so crazy, you can't watch it anymore.
But it's harder for him to pull it off too, because he's older now too. He's not like the kid who could do the Billy Madison anymore. He's not the, you know what I mean? It's just I don't buy it as
It's
much.
one thing to play a dweeb at 27. It's another to be playing a dweeb at 47.
Right. I agree. I don't know if do you have any other questions before we get into the list?
No, let's get into the list.
All right, let's just get into the meat of the thing. Let's talk about who and what is nominated this year. And you guys break it into 9 categories.
Actually,
believe.
well, we have 10.
You have 10 categories. So we've got worst screenplay nominations, right?
And that usually aligns pretty well with worst picture.
With what? Okay. Worst screen ensemble nominations.
And that's one we like to call them the SAGgies, the
SAGgies?
Screen Actors Guild Awards. We took that category from them. Usually we come up with stuff like the MTV Awards kind of swiped Screen Couple from us, we think. But and it is literally every person in the film. And
Okay.
Let me think. I know Twilight's in there.
Yep.
Battleship, I believe, is in there.
Yep.
That's My Boy is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry's Medea's Witness Protection. And
That sounds about right.
What's the, oh wow, the one everyone keeps asking us about. It set a new record for the smallest opening night per theater gross in history. Oogie Loves in Big Balloon Adventure.
Oh my God.
That was...
It's a kiddie movie, the concept of which is whenever the characters who have these big bulbous foam heads on, it's the guy who co-created Teletubbies.
Sounds right.
Promising right there. And it encourages the children to get up and run up and down the aisles and dance and scream and sing in the theater, which if I was an usher, I would be like, oh no,
no.
come on.
Did you obviously went and saw that?
I have a 16-year-old who actually, this guy also he had something to do with Thomas the Tank Engine. When my son was young,
That's a great
Thomas
show.
the Tank Engine was
a great show.
Yeah.
That's a credential. Teletubbies, not so much. But yeah, it on opening night, it grossed literally $47 per theater, and that's showing it 5 or 6 times during the course of the day. So there had to be several
for the
times
whole
it showed.
day?
Wow.
Yes, there had to be several showings with literally no one in the theater.
Wow.
So
I've never even heard of the Oogie Loves
How do you
before in
account
my
for
life.
that kind of a showing or lack of showing?
well, it was a manufactured attempt to create a children's franchise. And it was clearly meant to have a toy line and clothes and games and books, and it just didn't happen. It's
It wasn't organic enough.
Yes, he started with the presumption that with his credential he could get the kids to show up, and clearly he
Right.
miscalculated.
Grossly miscalculated on that one. All right, so then we have...
the first.
oh, go ahead.
What's the first category?
Well, I was just going to go through I have 9, but you said there's 10. So we had worst screenplay, worst screen ensemble, which we just talked about, worst screen couple,
Worst director.
worst director, worst supporting actress, worst supporting actor, worst actress, worst actor, and worst picture. I'm missing one. I'm not sure.
I know what it is, because this year, for the second year in a row, we are working with Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh,
And letting
okay.
their users vote a category. Last year, they voted screen ensemble.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And it was pretty close between Twilight and the Adam Sandler movie. And I was like, right up to the, I was like, Twilight, just something isn't going. And Jack and Jill legitimately won out of the 34,000 votes they got last year.
Wow.
This year we handed them worst remake, ripoff, or sequel, which is a category that speaks to what the Razzies are about. Totally
Right.
unoriginal, derivative dreck.
Yeah.
And in the nominating process, they had 48,000 votes to pick those 5 nominees. And that's the one category the general public can vote on. You can vote on it at Rotten Tomatoes. When I was online this morning, it's still on their main page with our logo.
Great.
That you can see what they picked. Twilight's in there, Tyler Perry's in there, Ghost Rider 2 with the flaming skull, Piranha 3D, and I'm trying to remember, I think that was Red Dawn. I'm pretty sure Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
A totally unnecessary remake.
Why would you remake a movie that was so horrible to begin with?
Red Dawn?
Yeah. Don't
You know
say
what?
you loved it. Oh, you're
I'm
from
gonna-
Nebraska.
okay.
He's wearing a red hat.
No, I know.
Okay.
I liked the first one only because I was a kid. So it was just, it was a bunch of kids going against, and it was the Cold War. So you had the Russians coming in and taking over things, and it was just something that was bigger than, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Well, it was
it
it was
attracted
very
me.
much of its time. It was very much a Cold War film. It was
Yeah.
near the very end of the Cold War, if I remember. It was the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
And isn't it John Milius who is to the right of Genghis Khan politically. And it's a message movie, but it's not a message that resonates. There's an interesting backstory on that film. Originally, it was the Chinese who were attacking us in the movie. And then someone said, there's 1 billion ticket buyers in China. Right. And so they went back and looped everything, and suddenly it's the North Koreans.
Right.
Wow. And that's an example of, you blew it to begin with, and now you're just blowing it worse.
I didn't see the remake. I don't know. Did you see the remake?
I don't think anyone other than the people at the premiere, not a lot of people saw that.
Just don't go see that.
I wouldn't buy a ticket with your money for that.
You wouldn't buy it? No. All right. So we had. Do we want to just go through each nomination, see just explain who's up for it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do screenplay. Let's start with that one
first.
So the worst screenplays. I haven't seen this one. This is Atlas Shrugged.
This is another one where it's the second of 3 segments they're doing from an Ayn Rand novel.
Okay.
There's your first problem.
Yes. Again, we were talking about to the right of Genghis Khan. Ayn Rand, if it's possible, to be the right of John Milius. And the first one cost $20 million and grossed $5 million. And everyone said, you're done. You're never going to. And I don't know where they got. It's a different director, slightly different cast, slightly different writers, same source material, and this one did cost as much and did even less business.
Did worse.
And Ayn Rand, her basic philosophy is I've got mine, screw you.
Yeah. I suppose if that works for you.
During the Bush years, that was at least what our president said was our policy. But we're not in the W era anymore. They're a little late with this. And it's another one we can't understand. And then moving down alphabetically, the harbinger of a whole slew of movies to be based on children's board games, sadly. And Adam Sandler, I hear, is doing Candyland. That ought to be great.
Oh, wow.
Are you serious?
No.
Battleship, which is, if you remember the game, and I'm old enough.
I do remember the game.
I do.
You sunk my battleship.
Yes.
The game takes, 20 minutes, if that, to play, and you get bored with it real quick. You get red pegs.
Yeah.
And this is a 2-hour, $200 million movie based on a game that, and I'm happy to say, domestically it bombed. Internationally, it did fairly well.
It made its money back.
Blows up real good.
Yeah.
But it did worldwide. It did not, I don't think, lose money. But like I said, this is the first of a whole series. Personally, I'm looking forward to Ouija Board, the movie. I can't wait to see
that cannot be.
No.
Where's the drum hit
finger on the
I'd like to see Christopher Walken in that one.
Now, hey, you know what? Christopher Walken in that, I might go see it.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, this tends to line up fairly well with Worst Picture. Adam Sandler's That's My Boy, which Adam Sandler doesn't take a screen credit on, but I don't know if that means he didn't contribute.
If I were
I would say probably he did.
I think I know why.
Probably
That's true. Perhaps the word credit is not the appropriate noun. And then another one, we were talking about the duality of Eddie Murphy and Adam Sandler's careers. Eddie Murphy had a picture that was released this year, but that was actually shot 4 years ago. And it was so good, they kept it in a closet, wrapped in mothballs. A thing called 1,000 Words.
Yeah.
And it's the same director as Norbit, for which Eddie Murphy won 3 Razzies.
Oh, that would be... I got to tell you, John, real quick. I tried to watch 1,000 Words. I literally couldn't get through more than 5 minutes of it. It was so bad.
It is. It's actually kind of a knockoff of the Jim Carrey movie Liar Liar. It's a very slight variation on that. He's a fast-talking literary agent who makes the mistake of screwing over a guru, and the guru makes a magic tree grow in his backyard, and every time he says anything, a leaf falls off the tree, and when all the leaves are off the tree, he's going to be dead. And so basically what you've got is Eddie Murphy, half of whose appeal is his way with words.
Right.
And you've paid Eddie Murphy $20 million and told him to shut up.
To not say a word.
Really bright.
That's not smart. That's not smart. And then the last one, which is...
the most favorite one.
Every... Is
that...
well, it's actually... We're called... Yes. The full title is Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2, but we call it Twilight SBD number 2.
Nice. That's great.
I like it.
That's great.
This whole series of films, they're faithful to the books. I would grant you that.
Okay.
If they were good books, they might be good movies.
Oh, hey-o.
Unlike Harry Potter, they're not good books. But this is Stephanie Meyer's novel, and actually it's only half of her novel. They took a cue from Harry Potter, and they split the last novel into 2 movies, because that way they make twice as much money.
Of course.
Supposedly.
But actually,
that's right.
this
You can't
franchise
lose
has
with
been
this.
yes,
Yeah.
this franchise has been huge worldwide. Among the 5 films, some Twihard went on our forum and said, "You're so full of it," and she said they made $3 billion, and I'm like, "Oh, come on!" And I looked it up, and she was right.
You're
$3
kidding.
billion.
$3 billion.
Is that
Such a crazy number. Wow.
worldwide?
Do you think that means that the author of the Twilight books is going to do a whole other series, and then a whole other series of movies will be made out of that?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I don't read the novels. I'm not 13,
for
and
you.
I'm not female. The end of this last film, Twilight SBD number 2, the little girl who's the daughter of Sparkly Edward and morose Bella, it's implied that she's going to grow up to maybe marry shirtless werewolf Jacob. And it looks to me like they are setting up to do a whole second round of features. God help us.
wow.
Wow. Well, you know what, teenagers, that's just what it is. They're making the money from the teenagers.
I have a pet theory also. When any movie makes the kind of money this movie makes, there's a certain percentage of those tickets that are the true diehards, or in this case, twihards, who see it 5, 10,
Yeah.
15,
That's
20.
so true, yeah.
And so it's not, this picture grossed something like 280 million domestic. That's not 280 million individual people going to see it. It could be
Sales.
17 really.
There's just
No, they
17
are.
people
I mean,
seeing
you're
it
so
over
right.
and
Some
over.
people are so into it, they just love it.
That's
it's
funny.
not 40 million tickets. It's
Better
10
not
million
be.
girls all seeing it 4 times.
Right.
It's super cheesy.
In my head, that's exactly what's happening.
Well, it makes the American movie-going public look a little less idiotic.
Yeah. I would like to think
If I'm
so.
right, maybe I'm
Well,
wrong.
and it seems like it's starting a trend, because The Hobbit's one book. That's another movie that's getting broken up into, I think, the 3 parts, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
that
3.
I
Is it
can
2 or
see.
3 parts?
It's 3 parts.
But
still,
it is
it's
an
a
epic
trend.
novel, and it's also, it's a reputable novel.
Well, right, of course.
Plus,
Of
they're
course.
throwing every single word from the book into the movie, whether you like it or not.
Right.
That's true.
Well,
it's not action.
It's
so.
just funny how they've done it, because Harry Potter did that. Then, of course, Twilight just did it. Now you've got, the Hobbits breaking it into parts. I mean, I'm just saying it's going to be. It just feels like it's a trend that's starting. Do you want to go to a break? Should we go to a
I
break
think we
real
should
quick?
go to
Let's have a little break.
Let's go to the break. We'll come back. We'll talk more with John Wilson, the creator and head raspberry himself, about this year's Razzie Awards. Come on back.
Simon. Oh, well, they're here? Oh, hi, how are you? I'll be right down. Hi, I'm Simon Stanley. I host the Great American Amateur Kitchen right here on iFood.tv. We invite you to join us for our network launch. Are you an amateur chef? Do you cook at home? What's your favorite dish? We're talking your signature, the type of dish that makes people go, wow, we want to know about it. Here's what we'd like you to do. Make a videotape and send it in to us. Send it to Can we get a logo? Can we get the graphic to fly in here, please? Ow! Can we get the graphic a little lower, please? Thank you. Send your videotapes to www.americanamateurkitchen.com. And if they're good, I mean, if they're really good, me and the crew will show up at your house and videotape our segment right from your kitchen with you making your signature dish. So, there you have it. Great American Amateur Kitchen right here on iFood.tv. We'll look for you soon.
Welcome back to 10 Reasons Why Show podcast. We are joined today by John Wilson, the head raspberry and creator of the Razzie Awards. He's been so gracious to stop by.
We
and
throw
talk
in a
to
little
us.
sound effect for you. When I registered it with the Library of Congress to get the trademark, they said, why a raspberry? And you can't really email. Back then you couldn't send an MP3 of a... It's interesting how raspberry became the phrase for that sound.
Yeah.
During the period of the plague.
Okay.
Children in England did little singing and dancing things in the street about the plague because that was what was going on. And they weren't supposed to sing the word fart. And they replaced the word fart with raspberry tart. And that was... So, because I was curious too, what raspberry and...
I had no idea. No idea.
Now
we learned. We learned something.
Definitely.
Completely uselessly, you now do.
Now we know. Everybody learned something
strange,
today.
actually.
So let's continue. Let's go through the nominations. The next one I think we wanted to do. Which one was? What did we leave
Couples.
off? Screen couples. Let's do screen couples.
Worst screen couples.
Sam, do you want to take us through that, or actually, John, you take us through that?
All right, we have any combination of two cast members from Jersey Shore doing a cameo in the Three Stooges movie. And the quote I found for that one is, if you're leery about fake Stooges doing Three Stooges stuff, wait till you see Snooki and the Situation doing Three Stooges stuff.
My God.
Speaking of the Three Stooges movie, that I tried to avoid. It was on the other day, and I just watched like 10 minutes of it, and I was like, my God, why did you bother? And I think originally they were trying to get people like Jim Carrey.
It was Jim Carrey,
and Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn. A lot
yeah.
of reputable actors were discussed. And apparently disgusted. I think the only one anyone would recognize is Sean Hayes, who was the gay character on what was the Deborah Messing sitcom?
Yeah,
but yeah, and he may have been a producer or something on it. I don't know, but he plays the red-haired one, Larry. And then I hear the guy that did Curly got some momentum out of it because he actually did a fairly good Curly. But what's the point? You're just doing something that already has been done better by the original.
I remember him from Mad TV. I think I remember him being on Mad TV at one point. The guy who played Curly. But that was my extent of who he was.
That's one film should not have been made.
And then moving down the list, one of two couples nominated from Twilight SBD number 2.
Nice.
As I mentioned earlier, the werewolf character has a somewhat inappropriate Woody Allen Sun Yi relationship with the little girl who's the daughter of morose Bella and sparkly Edward. So Mackenzie Foy as Little Renesmee, and I do not know where they got that name, and Taylor Lautner are nominated as a couple. There's a few scenes where she's like sitting in his lap and you're like,
uncomfortable.
Yes. And then this is like the third or fourth time in a row, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, who have all the screen chemistry of an 8th grader. Also in Twilight SBD number 2.
Are they going to win this year? I have to ask you. What's your prediction? Have they won? They've never won, right?
No, they have not.
Do you think they have a shot
They
this year?
certainly, I would think they have a shot.
All right.
But they are also up against, now we define couple as any two things. It doesn't have to be two people. So we have nominated Tyler Perry and his drag getup. This is, I think if you include the episodes from his TV shows where he did Medea, this is the 17th or 18th time Tyler Perry has put on the wig and the house dress and done Medea. It is the 7th or 8th feature film with Medea
That's
in
crazy,
it.
yeah.
And it's like, stop.
Has he been up?
It's like it's enough.
How many times has he been up for an award?
Actually, this is his first year as a contender, but he's all over the place because he also did Alex Cross.
Right.
He also did Good Deeds. I mean, he's heavily represented in those categories. And then the last one, we also sometimes pick the lead actor and say various people who were on screen with him. Adam Sandler is probably the strongest competition for Pattinson and Stewart. It's him and Leighton Meester, Andy Samberg, or really surprisingly, Susan Sarandon is in That's My Boy.
I was surprised actually. I saw that in the list, yeah.
Yeah. She's... the basic premise of the movie is that Sandler, as a 14-year-old, was seduced by his math teacher, and she had a baby. And that baby grows up to be Andy Samberg. And Samberg and Sandler go to visit the teacher in prison, who is now in her 40s or 50s. And I racked my brain to try and say, why is Susan Sarandon in this? The younger version is played by her daughter. And I'm sure that's in there somewhere because Susan Sarandon is not someone you would think would ever be in an Adam Sandler film.
No, I wouldn't.
Although
think so.
she was in Speed Racer. So
Well, that's
Yeah,
a good
well, I don't
point.
want to talk about
But
that.
still, you don't expect
point.
that. So
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. What's the, is it worst director? Is that
We
our
can
next
do
let's
that.
go with the worst. Yeah.
Worst director nominations. Let's go through the,
all right. Off the top of my head, I believe it's
Sean Anders.
Sean Anders for That's My Boy.
which makes sense.
Yes, and surprisingly, it isn't Dennis Dugan, who usually does the Adam Sandler. It's just as bad, but it's a different guy. Peter Berg, who was an actor and who pulled a lot of the actors from the TV show. He does a lot of people like Friday Night Lights, I think it's called.
Right.
For Battleship.
yeah.
Bill Condon, who I'm pretty sure is an Oscar winner for Chicago, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Directing, he did the two halves of SBD.
Oh, he did both.
Number 1 and number 2.
And he might be a Razzie winner now. So
And Tyler Perry with the 2 titles that have his name on them, Tyler Perry's Good Deeds and Tyler Perry's Medea's Witless Protection. It's actually called Witness.
Yes.
And then
Very nice.
bringing up the rear, the guy who directed Oogie Loves got off not being nominated.
Yeah, how
John
did-
Putz. Oh, I'm sorry, Putsch. Directed
You're right the first time.
Atlas Shrugged Part 2.
Oh, my God.
I have a question, John,
Yes.
about Tyler Perry.
Yeah?
In your opinion, in your educated opinion, what do you think Tyler Perry's success is really about?
Well, I think that he does know his audience. He has an audience. I don't think he's ever made a picture that didn't make at least $40 million.
Wow.
He's very efficient and proficient. He comes out with an average of 2 to 4 pictures every single year. And I don't think any of them lose money. So the industry thinks he's wonderful.
He's very
And his
successful,
target audience clearly must think he's wonderful because they keep
Right.
coming back. But those of us who aren't in either of those groups,
Yeah.
we're like, why are you still putting on the dress?
Yeah. Well, and and he's taken a serious turn in his career. He's no longer doing the Medeas. I mean, he is, but having him go out and
Well,
do
he
the
hasn't
Alex
said
Cross
he's not going to
is
do another
amazing.
one, but as far as I know, he hasn't got another one scheduled.
Well, it's the Alex Cross that I think that's another one. I just can't wrap my head around him playing that role. So I just
Well, yeah, he's that's a sequel of sorts. There
Right.
were, I believe, 2 previous films of the same character, and I think it was Morgan Freeman who
was,
played
yeah.
him. And I don't. In what universe are Tyler Perry and Morgan Freeman, other than their common ethnicity?
Yeah.
What on earth do those 2 actors have in common? How can the same character be played? But
Yeah.
just the age difference is.
I don't get it either. But hey, that's why he's on the list, right? We're
Actress?
supporting actress. Yes.
All right. A repeat offender, we call them when they've been nominated or won more than once. Jessica Biel was in both Playing for Keeps, which is the 2nd or 3rd worst reviewed movie of the year,
Wow.
according to Rotten Tomatoes. And another completely pointless remake, Total Recall.
Yeah.
I didn't see
With
that.
Colin Farrell, I think, was
Just
playing
saw it
Arnold.
last night, by
Yeah.
the
How
Not-
was it?
way. Not very good.
No, not
Not
good.
I don't know
Not
why
good at all.
why remake something that, even if it wasn't terrific, there's not any reason to remake that.
No, there isn't.
There is no reason
yeah.
to remake it.
And you would hate it because every 5 seconds is a lens flare. You would hate
Oh
it.
yeah, they do that.
would
Well,
hate
I
yeah.
forgive him for one thing, and that's for having Jessica Biel.
Yeah.
Well, this is true, but she won't be. She won't
Because
be forgiven.
I love her.
All right, and alphabetically, next is Brooklyn Decker, who had the misfortune of appearing in both Battleship and another one of those. They took a big selling book that you wouldn't think could make a movie and proved it couldn't. What to Expect When You're Expecting, which is a guide for pregnant women. I remember
Right.
my wife making me read that when she was
You
pregnant
read
with
that?
my son.
I read that too.
Wow.
I read it.
Really?
The plot was
Many
very
does.
thin. Basically, it's 9 months and boing, there's a baby.
Turned it into a book, didn't
Yeah,
it?
and millions of people have read it, but it's not a novel. It's not a story. It's not really, and
It's
it's
not a
another one of
movie
those.
material, you mean.
It's the
It's just
same kind of thing as Valentine's Day and New Year's Eve. Those things where it's
Yeah.
like 17
Yeah.
stars are all up there, and
Right.
they're all in there for 5 minutes, and you don't know any of them. Yeah.
I mean, I just understand. That's another one of those movies that how do you get all these big actresses and actors to partake in something like
I
that?
think
Money.
yes,
Money.
if you look at how long they're on screen, they probably shoot for less than a week.
Right.
And they probably get $4 or $5 million
yeah.
each. I'd
I'd do
be
it.
happy with $4 or $5 million for a week's work.
Yeah.
And then another one we're surprised has not been nominated before because I'm pretty sure she's been in all 5 Twilight movies. Ashley Greene as the prescient member of the Cullen clan in Twilight SBD number 2.
The Colon clan?
I was pointing out, I think it's very funny given her morose nature that the married name of Bella is only off one letter from Sullen.
That's a good point.
That is a
Another
good
repeat
point, yeah.
offender who will never be forgiven for Geely, even if Ben Affleck has been. Jennifer Lopez, also in What to Expect When You're Expecting.
When she starts directing excellent movies, then maybe we'll think about it. But no, yeah,
I have a question
and
about
then-
how does she keep getting cast in films? She's the worst actress.
well, she was also just
I
in,
must
she
say,
was
I
just
agree.
in Parker, which was another one that just failed
Yes,
miserably.
that's a
But they keep
potential
putting
for
her in
miss-
films.
I totally agree with Sam on that, but it's just so weird the fact that they always keep casting her.
Well, I mean, she's still Jennifer Lopez.
Who
She
cares?
does
She
her
does-
fine.
But it doesn't
you
matter.
can't argue that she doesn't look good on screen.
She does look good on screen.
Yeah, but if she can't
She's an amazing
act,
looking woman, but yes, it's silent
Acting.
movies were 70 years ago. So,
Yeah.
All right,
and
here's
then,
another.
and then
and
the last one, similarly to Jennifer Lopez, a pop star who's making her acting debut in Battleship. The one to beat is probably Rihanna.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
not say the one to beat, because when it comes to
Oh,
beating,
that's true. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
only
even-
Chris Brown has
Hey-o.
She
jurisdiction.
has the exclusive on that one.
I had to say that.
Yeah, and she's the one element of it that I thought you guys who made this movie are so crass. Certainly, you could have written a dumb theme song for Rihanna to sing on the battleship.
Yes.
Come on.
Something.
So we could revive Worst Song if for no other reason.
And I thought it was funny because I had read something, or maybe I heard it from Peter Berg, who said that he was confused that he was making a movie so bad and worth so much money that it was overwhelming to him that you should know at that point that it's not going to be
It is.
good.
I like to say that Battleship is the first Michael Bay movie that Michael Bay didn't actually direct.
That's so
It's
true.
got that same formula. Every 7 minutes, something explodes.
So true.
You've got a love story underlying the whole thing that nobody gives a.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally agree.
Exactly.
And it's this great big overblown set piece that really isn't about anything real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anything with aliens, I don't know how they got aliens involved with it, but I'll
Well,
get
it's-
over that.
It's basically Transformers in the ocean.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. All right, let's move on to worst supporting actor. This is
One of my
Oh,
favorite.
there you go.
All right, and we have a couple of guys. Now, we have a history of nominating people playing themselves, which is kind of like the ultimate insult. We don't believe you're David Hasselhoff as David Hasselhoff in Piranha 3D. His competition includes, in the last of the Twilight films, the werewolf character played by Taylor Lautner spends half the film in wolf form. And disappointingly to me, he doesn't talk as the wolf this time, because I thought that was so funny in the last one.
and I feel
but
bad I haven't seen
we knocked him down to supporting. So Lautner is in here with Hasselhoff, an actor who we know can act. We've seen him do it. But this year, we also know he can collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson in both
yeah.
Battleship and Wrath of the Titans,
Yeah.
a sequel to a
Horrible.
remake.
That's
It's
horrible.
like, how many layers away from original can you get?
Exactly.
And then he's looking like he's gonna be a perennial. In real life, he's one of Adam Sandler's best friends. In the movies, he always plays one of Adam Sandler's best friends.
Yep.
Nick Swardson in That's My Boy, who plays. The word retarded is not PC, but they're very heavily implying that this is a diminished person, which is good casting for Nick Swardson.
Well, there you go.
But I just have one question about his performance. Did he go total retard?
Because you never go.
You can never go to no.
What was it? Crying Jack? What was the name of
Yeah,
that?
I think it was
My
Crying
son
Jack.
loves that movie, yeah. And then there's one other person playing themselves, and sadly, in his case, he's doing so quite convincingly. Vanilla Ice, who won Worst New Star more than 20 years ago, is back as Vanilla Ice in That's My Boy.
Wow. This is his second nomination.
Oh no, he's got several.
He's got several.
He
All
did.
right.
He wrote songs for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
That's
movies
correct,
back when we
yes.
had the song category. No,
Yes.
he's got a fairly long history with us.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. All right.
Let's go on to worst actor.
All right. Again, repeat offender, but he has never won, surprisingly. Good friend of the IRS. I understand everything he earns goes to them. Nicolas Cage. who actually had 3 films, but one of them was not released properly to qualify. So he's up for Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Vengeance, and a thing called Justice, which is practically a Xerox of Taken.
Wow.
Wow. Hey, this
That one I
reference.
don't know.
This reference you made of Nicolas Cage and the IRS. Do you think there's any kind of conspiracy thing going on with that because he made those National Treasure films?
The Smithsonian is behind it all.
Yeah. The Smithsonian may want to keep certain
Someday
things.
they will have his mummified head on display.
He'll want that probably.
And it won't look any different.
No. But I agree. Ghost Rider 2, I went and saw that.
It was really bad.
I paid for that.
Why?
It was horrible. Because the first one was so
character.
bad that I thought, okay,
Well, the
it can't
first
be
one was
worse.
fun bad. I would grant you that.
It was fun bad.
The second one, it tried to take itself a little bit more serious, and I don't know what it was.
It's
him.
not like that character demands a sequel. It's not. If you were listing
Right.
the 1,000 likeliest cartoon or comic book characters to be made into a movie, he would be like 987.
I mean, the problem with his movies, it's always him. You know, it's the hairstyle, everything, the look, the move. It's him. It's not the character.
He always looks
You don't see a
surprised. You ever
character.
notice that? His acting style is looking surprised.
He's probably surprised he's working.
Why don't you
Oh my
guys
God, that's
just rename it the Nicolas Cage Award? That's what I would do.
Now, the next guy alphabetically, we could name it after also.
There you go.
We keep coming back and bashing poor old Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
His career looked like it was back on track. About a year and a half ago when he was going to host the Oscars and people were saying Tower Heist was going to be good.
Yeah.
Tower Heist wasn't a Razzie, but it didn't do very well.
Right.
Wasn't very
He backed out of the Oscars, and the people at, I think it's Universal, released 1,000 Words. They had already set things up to release this movie based on what they thought was going to happen, and it's a $50 or $60 million movie that did not even gross $15 million.
Wow.
That's sad.
It's another nail in the Eddie Murphy career coffin.
Stabbing his ass in the back.
Yeah.
And another perennial.
Same
I think he's
names
been
keep
nominated
coming up.
for the sparkly vampire guy from Twilight Saga, SBD, Robert Pattinson, who surprisingly has never won.
That
And
is
then
surprising.
He also had a second film this year that wasn't very good called Bel Ami, but it debuted on cable, and we follow the Oscar rules, kind of, sort of.
Sure.
And it was like, and a bunch of our members were like, "Come on, put him on there for Bel Ami, give him an."
He's a very deep actor.
And somebody who does have 2 titles. He did appear not in drag twice last year. Tyler Perry and the title role of Alex Cross, going from cross-dressing to being a gun-toting detective. Not terribly given. The quote on that one that I love is, the moment you see him, you go, "Oh, that's why there's never been a Tyler Perry action figure."
Yeah.
Sorry. And then his other one, he directed it and appears in one of the main roles in Tyler Perry's Good Deeds.
Yeah. Don't remember that one.
I don't know.
And then bringing up the rear in many different ways.
And not surprising.
Adam Sandler is back. Jack and Jill, I have to say, when I saw that, I thought, wow, he can't do something worse than this. I was wrong.
This is worse. In your opinion, this is
the
worse.
basic concept. Okay, the basic concept of Jack and Jill, it is an old chestnut to put a guy in. I mean, Tyler Perry.
Sure.
It works for him.
Yeah.
But the basic joke of That's My Boy is the idea of teacher on student, essentially rape.
Yeah.
And birth out of wedlock, bad parenting, abandonment, emotional distress, and it's a comedy.
Obviously.
I have a heart. Yes, I have, and I have to say, just as you were saying about the Eddie Murphy movie, I rented this on pay-per-view, and it gave me 48 hours. It took me 48 hours to get through this movie because I kept going, ew, ew, that's not fun. That's ew, and then the other times I'd walk away, it was like, I haven't done the laundry. I haven't done the dishes.
That's bad when you think laundry's a better idea.
When laundry is more enticing than Adam Sandler. Sandler's in some trouble.
That's some problems right there. All right, well, let's move on to Worst Actress.
Okay.
This should be a fun one.
Another one where we have some repeaters and some new names. Many of our members are surprised. This is the first time Katherine Heineman.
I am surprised.
I am surprised too, actually. Yeah.
Other than, I think it was called Knocked Up.
Yes.
Other than that, she has not made a good movie. And
Correct.
somehow she's gone, how many years is it since since she left
The Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, I knew the name of the spin-off. But yeah, she walked away from a potential long-term television series that could have made her rich, and instead has just made horrible rom-coms ever since.
Horrible.
This one, interestingly, is kind of a knockoff of one that had a bunch of nominations a couple of years ago. The other version was Gerard Butler and Jennifer Aniston. And it wasn't called The Bodyguard. What was it?
No, it was
That was
Bounty Hunter.
Breaking Up?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bounty Hunter?
Bounty
Not
Hunter.
Breaking Up.
And and so this is her first time, but this particular film, again, according to Rotten Tomatoes, this is one of the 5 worst reviewed. I think it got 96% negative reviews.
What was the worst reviewed by Rotten Tomatoes? Do you know? We'll have to look
It had
that
2%. I'm trying to remember what
my
it is.
God.
And it isn't Oogie Love, surprisingly.
up. Yeah, I would think that would be the worst for sure.
It might be One for the Money that only had 2%. And then another one who's been around for quite some time, and this is her 5th appearance in a Resident Evil film. Coincidence or not, her husband directs them. I'm
It's
told that
gotta
it's
be
not Mila, it's Mia Jovovich.
Okay.
Who made her screen debut in the sequel to Blue Lagoon.
Did she really?
Wow.
and has been something of a perennial ever since. And then, of
Except
course...
for one exception, if I may. Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought
don't know if
she was-
I don't think she was nominated for... I don't know.
No,
I
but
don't
she
think
was
so.
brilliant.
I thought she was good.
Yeah,
in
that
that.
I thought she
a good
was
one.
awesome. I loved her
Yes,
character.
she was.
Laugh at me if you will.
You're just speaking his language.
This is my favorite one, by the way. The one that's coming up. This is my
Okay, now we have a long history of cross-dressers being nominated in the opposite sex category. Tyler Perry finally is nominated as Medea in
That's
Medea's
hilarious.
Witness Protection. There's one sequence that was one of the clips they put in the press kit for the movie, where he's having to go through airport security, and they put the wand up his dress, and it's like, that wasn't
Really? They went
funny when
there?
Milton Berle did it.
Milton Berle was a lot funnier in drag. I gotta tell you.
Well, and he could argue, being 60 years earlier, he was a little more original. And again, our rules do say that if you're in more than one bad movie, we will list them all after your name. Kristen Stewart, of course, is nominated as Bella in Twilight SPD #2, but she also was a morose Bella-like Snow White in
Oh,
Snow
God, it
White
was-
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the
that was pretty bad.
Huntsman, which of all the movies the Twilight cast members have done, that is the most successful. That's not a Twilight movie that one of those 3 actors have been in. It did pretty well.
Right.
I actually thought the other one, Mirror Mirror, I think it was called,
Yeah.
at least
Oh.
visually was much
Julia
more
Roberts,
interesting.
right, in it?
Julia Roberts was the evil queen.
Yeah.
Right.
And some round-faced woman whose name I don't remember was Snow White. But it was Tarsem Singh, I think is his name, is a visually wonderful director, even if he, can't get people to act.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
Kristen Stewart, I'm starting to have sort of a suspicion that in her bag of acting tricks, she only has one character.
She does. Well,
You're giving her credit for one more than I would.
Well, I'm talking about when she plays herself as well. So.
Well, she's, and then all showbiz awards, the zeitgeist, the sense of who this person is and what they're going through in their private life off screen does factor in. But they claim it doesn't. In our case, yeah, it does. And the whole thing of her and the director of, I think it was Snow White.
Yeah, it was.
That whole thing where she broke Mr. Pattinson's heart. Last alphabetically, but first in the hearts of many Razzie members. This is her 4th or 5th nomination. Her most significant previous nomination was as worst actor for Yentl when she was the Sheba boy. She's playing the ultimate guilt-tripping Jewish mother in a movie appropriately called Guilt Trip.
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand, you are stuck in a subcompact car with her and Seth Rogen for about 100 minutes. My favorite quote on this one is, the most obnoxious movie mom since Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
No way. Oh
that sounds terrible.
And it was
hope
a
that's
box
not
office
true.
bomb. It got bad reviews. And the hard part to understand about it is Barbara Streisand has not had a leading role and above the title billing
Right.
since, I think it was Mirror Cracked was the last one.
How long ago was that?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Mirror Has Two Faces. But it's like 15 years. And you waited 15 years and you picked this?
That's the one. Well,
Yeah.
Well,
After Meet the Fockers,
how can you-
For which she was nominated.
Oh, she was.
But
Very good. Very good. All right, let's talk about the big one.
All right, the
worst
biggest
picture.
very of them all, the
have a
very
drum
worst picture. Battleship, of course, is up for worst picture, being Battleship.
Yeah.
Again, the one most people don't know, but if you do, you would agree with us. Oogie Loves in The Big Balloon Adventure.
Yes.
Adam Sandler's That's My Boy, the funny incest comedy.
Not surprising.
1,000 Words, in which, to some people's satisfaction, Eddie Murphy mostly doesn't speak. And we like to say that we consider the final Twilight film the Razzie equivalent of the final Lord of the Rings picture. This is our last chance to bash Twilight Saga. And the fact that it has 11 nominations and we only have 10 categories is probably an indicator. This could be the Super Bowl year for Twilight.
Are you talking sweep?
I hope not, because I think those are kind of boring. But I would guess it's probably going to win a handful, and it certainly is in the running for worst picture.
So who do you, do you have a prediction for worst picture? Do you think, who do you think is going to take it?
I would guess Twilight, although the ballots are still out at this point.
Sure.
And because of the Oscars moving everything 2 weeks early on their nomination process, we had to do the same thing.
Sure.
We didn't get as big a sampling from our members to nominate, and so this is the first year in years where the voting for nominations aren't necessarily an indication of the voting for the final awards, because we expect many more ballots on the final.
Wow. All right. Well, this is a good time to take a break.
Great.
Let's take a break.
Definitely.
We'll come back. We'll learn actually how these lovely things here, how the Razzie Awards were made, and then we'll talk more. We have a couple more questions that we're going to ask John Wilson, the head raspberry of the Razzie Awards. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. My name is Jake Sufjan, and I am one of the stars on that comedy web series called Those Guys. It's a hilarious endeavor of men and their escapades, and I think you should check it out. When you have a chance, go to YouTube and subscribe. Till then, we'll see you on the next episode.
Welcome back to 10 Reasons Why Show podcast. We are joined today by John Wilson, the creator and head raspberry of the Razzie Awards, which we all love, of course.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Razzie Awards, now you guys give away actual awards, which we see in front of us here. Now, how do you go about making these? Who makes these, and what goes into it?
And they're so pretty. They are.
Thank you. Ben Affleck didn't think that. He said it's a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's the point, buddy.
Yeah, you think you're going to get gold for Geely? No, spray paint. That's what you get for Geely. It's made up of several things. I designed it a couple of years after we started the whole thing. It was what is now the standard Razzie Award was originally the Career Achievement statuette. Okay. And all of these things were common in 1983 and are not as easy to find now. We start off with our base, which is a jar lid.
A jar lid.
Nice.
Spray painted gold. Here, we're going to spray paint it. And then we put plaster in this to give it ballast, because otherwise it doesn't feel like it weighs anything.
Right.
Then we take a 35 millimeter film core, spray paint that gold, take lovely tacky wood grain shelf paper and run it around the outside of it to make it the award it most closely resembles is a Grammy, I think.
Sure.
And then we glued that on there. And then the element that's the hardest thing to find now, that every home in America had when I invented this, a Super 8 film reel, which what I love about it is when you spray paint a Super 8 film reel gold, it gets all bumpy and tacky and really wretched looking. And then we glue that on top of the film core. And then we take a piece of doweling that we bought specifically to fit into the hole in the...
Wow.
And then on top of this, I handcraft a glob of clay and mush a whole bunch of beads into the clay to create the raspberry element of the Raspberry Award. And that whole thing is spray painted gold. And then topping it all off is a lovely little leaf, just like a real raspberry would have.
That's so
cute. For years we have said, here, let me hold up this was the prototype, the one we accidentally gave to Sandra Bullock and had to get back. For years we've said it's $4.97, but when you add up what all these things cost now, when I first made it, we used to say 79 cents. It does cost, I will admit, more than $4.97, but it has a certain glorious tackiness.
It does.
That is befitting of somebody winning an award for what they're winning a Razzie for.
Yeah.
And among the people who have been presented them, I can say he accepted it. Ben Affleck for Gigli. I contacted his publicist and said, if he wants to come, we'd love to have him there. The publicist never told him, and Affleck in a press conference trashed us for never inviting him. And I was like,
See.
And I found out he was going to be on Larry King, and I knew one of our voters worked on Larry King's show. I said, if we brought the award, would Larry give it to him on the air? And Larry King called us the Razzie Awards. What do you make of this? The Razzie Awards. Yeah, with the suspenders. And he handed it to Ben Affleck, and it literally fell apart in his hand. It was great. I loved that moment. And then Affleck goes, what is this? This is a piece of crap. Well, I don't want this. And he gave it back to Larry King. And I went back the next day and put it on eBay as the Razzie Ben Affleck broke on the Larry King show. And the bidding got high enough that Ben Affleck's Razzie paid to rent the theater for the next year's show.
No kidding.
So everyone except Ben Affleck was happy.
That's amazing.
That's a great Ben Affleck.
That is a great. How long does it take you to make one of these things?
I spent some time yesterday afternoon in my ex-wife's backyard with a spray paint can. I was able to make 4 of them in about 2.5 hours.
Wow.
It takes a while, huh?
What better place to make?
Well, you have to
was gonna
wait
say.
for the spray paint and then the glue.
How many do you make? So you make 9, 10, or how many do you make?
We try to have enough so that the people who really aren't going to come,
right?
if everyone was there, we would have a
enough
trophy for each of them. And then this year we're going to try something different.
Oh,
we do know a week ahead who won. And we are going to go ahead and send them the award in advance with a request that they use it as a prop to do a cell phone acceptance speech.
That would be great.
That's so easy to do because they always go, well, that night there's that big party in Century City.
Yeah.
I can't be at your thing. And the next night I have to be. And it's like, you got a cell phone and every cell phone has video.
Yeah.
So, have some fun with it.
Absolutely.
It is intended to in part to give these people a chance to embrace that they blew it and to
absolutely.
be endearing.
Yeah.
And in the course of the 32 years we've done it so far, very few people have embraced it. The first big name who did, and he could afford to make fun of himself, Bill Cosby, when he was like the most popular guy on earth. He flew us up to Lake Tahoe and had it presented to him. But he said, you're calling it golden raspberry. It has to be 24 karat gold. And we're like, but he worked out a deal. We called our friends at Fox, which had just hit the air then, and we said, would you be willing to, if you could get Bill Cosby for Sweeps Week, accepting Razzie Awards, would you pay? And they spent $30,000 making 3 Razzies out of Italian marble and 24 karat gold.
Wow.
And then Cosby he was a very dear man. He said, I only have accepted 2 awards in my life and I earned them both, People's Choice and the Razzies.
That's great.
Impressive, actually.
So,
That's fantastic.
John, regarding the fact that you make X amount of units per year for show, are all of them delivered as possibly as you can to the winners?
Our basic attitude is if they're interested or they would accept this year, we're going to try something different, like I said. Our attitude is if they want it, of course. Like Dennis Dugan actually did ask for his Razzie for having directed Just Go With It and Jack and Jill. And we did get it to him with a plaque and a whole, presentation and everything. But if they really are just going to throw it in the trash or stomp on it or ignore it. It takes 42 minutes to make one.
My question would be, you don't put a name, right? You don't say the words.
The gimmick we're gonna try to use, we will send it without a plaque on it and say, if you want it with the plaque on it, do a speech. We'll send you the plaque.
That's great.
And then you
That's
can display
nice.
it.
Yeah.
Wow. Otherwise, you have a generic Razzie that could have been the one Ben Affleck broke.
So in addition to Bill Cosby, who else is actually accepted an award?
Well, the two major ones, and they are both Academy Award winners. Halle Berry, for God knows what reason, chose to follow up her Oscar-winning role in Monsters Ball, playing Catwoman.
Oh yeah,
which is one of the great box office bombs of the last decade. And her people told us she was coming, but we were not allowed to publicize it. We had to sneak her in the back, and we had to give her free reign for whatever she wanted to do on the stage. And we will do that. If you show up, we'll give you our stage, unless you're Tom Green. We had to pull off the stage. But we will give you however much time you want up there to revel in your Razziness. And she got up there and she did the most amazing, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's on our Razzie channel on YouTube. It is an 8-minute riff on her own Oscar speech, reversed. And she said, I never thought I'd be up here accepting an award for this. And then she told she did this brilliant buildup of what her mother had told her as a child. You can't be a good winner if you can't also be a good loser.
There you go.
And she did this whole, and you're expecting this really, emotional, and she said, and like the first time I ever lost a beauty pageant, when they told me I won this, I wanted to tell you guys to go.
That's a great story.
That's a good one.
And we can see that on YouTube channel.
Yeah, and do you have the YouTube channel address?
The Razzie channel at YouTube. If you enter Halle Berry and Razzie, it should bring it up.
Oh, that should be below the screen right now as we speak.
Yeah. So somebody else.
And then the other one hadn't yet won an Oscar when she showed up for the Razzie. She won her Oscar the very next night. Sandra Bullock, the same year that she did Blindside, did another one of those so good they kept it in the closet movies, a thing called All About Steve.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yes,
that was bad.
Just to give you an idea of how well it played, in the theater when I saw it, there's a scene where she's on a bus and she won't stop talking, and all of the passengers vote her off the bus. And the theater audience applauded as the bus drove away. But she showed up with a little red wagon full of DVDs of All About Steve and basically accused us of not having seen her film, which she should be so lucky.
Or you should be so lucky.
You should be so lucky, yeah.
And she had fun with it. She said, look, I've got the script here. I'll go through line by line, and let's see if you can do a better job.
So she just threw the director under the bus, basically, the screenwriter. That's amazing.
But she, and then the very next night, she won Best Actress. And the other cool thing is, this was, I think, the 30th or 31st year that Bullock showed up. One of my fantasies was hearing the Razzies mentioned on the red carpet at the Oscars, and everyone who interviewed her that night said, you were at another award. And it was just so fun to see it get onto the red carpet with the other guys.
Wow.
And she had a terrific sense of humor about it. I mean, she did say, one of the questions I loved was, well, are you going to display both? And she said, well, they're the two ends of the spectrum. They're the whole range of working in this business. But the Razzie will be on a lower shelf.
It's fair.
Not?
That's fair.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
And again, her speech is also available on the Razzie channel at YouTube.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Great. And they can people can follow you guys on Twitter.
We have Twitter. I believe it's at the Razzies. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a Facebook page where you can like us, or whatever the opposite of liking people on Facebook is, which is, I think, Golden Raspberry Awards.
Got it.
At Twitter.
Yep.
And there are people who, because we picked on someone they like, get real mad.
Sure.
And we get some very funny, incoherent emails. So sometimes when we like the Twihards were just swarming all over our forum last year, attacking us for nominating their iconic film. But yeah, you can. We encourage feedback from the public as well as the nominees and the winners. I think it's obvious it's supposed to be funny.
Yes. Yes.
Most people, most media get it.
Yeah.
But the people that we nominate, for the most part, what I like to say is you got $20 million and you've still got $20 million and you made 1,000 words. Can't you laugh about that? We're not taking away your $20 million.
Exactly. I'd be laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, how much is that per word?
Hurts, you know?
Yeah, how much is that word? Yeah, someone's broken that down somewhere. All right. Well, let's once again, they can get a hold of you guys also on your website at razzies.com. Right.
And we have running regular features. We try to pick a worst movie of the week, a worst DVD of the week. We actually just recently, to give it some balance, have started including, in my opinion, the best movie on cable of the week. And this week it was a real hard choice. Citizen Kane is on Turner Classics.
Oh, no kidding.
So, and most people do agree that's a pretty good movie.
That's a pretty good movie. That's a pretty decent
Although
movie.
the industry would have tried to pay us to give Orson Welles Razzies back then when that film came out.
Really?
That's probably true. So many people.
Yeah, he was making fun of the most powerful publisher on earth, William Randolph Hearst, and the whole industry was terrified of him. And they did not want the movie to be released. They offered the studio the price of the negative to burn it.
No idea.
Wow, didn't know that.
You learn something new.
And useless.
No. Well, it was all information's useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful stuff 60 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's all we got for today. Unless do you have any other questions for him? I mean,
I've got lots of questions.
We do.
We'll have to have him back.
We love that you do.
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. We'd love to have you back.
Tell us once again when those when the awards, when we'll find out who the winners are.
We since our 4th year, we have done our announcements on, we call it Oscar Eve. The Academy Awards are Sunday, February 24th, so we will be unveiling our lucky winners on Saturday, February 23rd this year.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right, well, that's it for our show. For 10 Reasons Why show, we want to thank John Wilson for coming by, sharing all this wonderful information, nominations. We're looking forward to the award show and who's going to win this year.
And you do have to put the word win in quotes.
Win. Who's going to win this year?
It's kind of like...
but for all the fans, we're all winners because the Razzies is a fantastic show. So thank you again.
You know, they're
coming.
honored to be nominated alongside such other sucky actors.
Speaking of sucky actors, for Sam Labrati.
Wait a minute.
Oh, goodness,
Just
no.
kidding. For Sam Labrati, for Sema Batuk, thanks again, John Wilson.
Thank you, John.
I am
Thank you.
Scott Tommaso. We'll see you guys again next week on 10 Reasons Why show. And go see, or make sure you watch the Razzies, or go to their website, check them out on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. See you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.